if you also look at some of these Dragon Den shows, they also said that death was a really good investment. They're highly invested in death and making you die because there's a lot of profit in death. So you can see the mindset at some of these people. One other, the female dragon who's claiming, on the show to be the single mother card to attract everybody. Well, I was the single mother, and guess what? She has no concept of the hardships of being a single mother. She has way too much wealth. She was able to feed her children all the time. But was there any compassion on that show? They knew damn well that I was dealing with severe abuse. There was no compassion for that. They were, investing their time working with troubled children, never really put two and two together that maybe these kids that are coming from troubled homes may have a little bit to do with, the single mother problem and the abuse that they have to deal with that nobody really wants to stop and understand. Why? Because they're friggin' wealthy and have no comprehension what it's like to be at a table and not be able to feed your kids every day because you have an ex-husband that's constantly destroying your friggin' life to the point where you can't even work. And if you work, all of your money goes to him. Remember, I'm paying child support for the children that live in my house. And how did that happen? Because my ex constantly went to court without serving me. And then when I ended up going into court because I was in such a hated state of everything that was done, there's no way that I stood up for myself. I watched my attorney not say anything that was true. But I was in shell shock and didn't say anything, where I should have just stood up and said, you know what, you are so fired. I should have been able to speak up and be calm. But no, I was in shock. I was in rage, and anything I would have said would have come out crazy. So it would have been much better for me to be calm and loving in a situation, and none of this shit would have happened. They would have received more information of the full story, and I wouldn't have had this shit happen to me. But that's what I had to do, is I had to love the situation to be able to figure out what the hell was going on. And you have to pull yourself back into this loving state of being. I had to look at what was it that what state of being was I when I did attract a house, when I did attract an airbrush. Anything that was good in my life, I had to sit back and say, okay, what chemical experiences was I making? What were those chemicals? What were the intentions going on that made me, without a doubt, within 2 weeks, make me attract everything that I wanted to attract? And then what was inside me when I was experiencing all of the abuse? Every time I experienced abuse, I definitely had a hate for it. I had a hate for the control. I had, so it was like, you got to get rid of that hate. And there ended up being 6 things that I could see that I had a state of being every single time that I attracted anything within a 2-week period. There were 6 intentions that I always felt. One of them is I felt really confident, confident and certain. It was a blow your mind, confident and certain state of being. God was mailing me an airbrush. I didn't give a shit who was going to criticize me or knock me down. There's no way you could convince me that it wasn't going to happen. I just had way too much confidence and certainty in it. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I just knew it was going to happen. Same with the house. I had no money. I had no savings. I had everything going against me. My whole world knew my limitations, so there was an awful lot of people that were going to convince me you're kind of nuts. But I was so confident, so certain that a house is just going to show up within 2 weeks. A house showed up. So being confident and certain were chemicals that you kind of need to have. I also felt love and happiness. Every single time any of these happened, I was just like so freaking happy that this was about to happen. So feeling in that state of being actually is what helped create all of that stuff. Then I really knew that I was in alignment with something. Every time that shit happened, I knew that every friggin' judge is corrupt, every friggin' politician's corrupt, every single lawyer's corrupt. I was perfectly aligned with every single horrible thing to make every single horrible shit happen. But every time that I wanted good shit, it was like there was an alignment with everything. There was a person that wanted to give up a house. There was, somebody that said, oh, it was too dusty to send me an airbrush. I was connected with other people that actually influenced making good shit happen in my life. I always felt like I was deserving. I always felt this prosperous and abundance sense of being that I could attract all of this. So abundance and prosperity doesn't necessarily mean cash. It just means that you are abundant in whatever it is that you need to make whatever you wanted to happen. So that was another one. Accepting and allowing. Huge, huge, huge one. I had to accept and allow the universe to just let it be and not work it. Just accept and allow how everything seems to appear, and just not play that game, and you tend to be able to get control of your emotions when you can just accept and allow that the universe is just going to provide. And there's one other one. The biggest one is gratitude and humanity. If you aren't grateful for anything, you won't see good shit come up. You actually have to have a state of being grateful. I was grateful a house was going to show up. So when it showed up, I was grateful for that conversation. I was grateful for the experience. You will never, ever, ever, ever see anything good if you do not have a state of gratitude and humanity. You have to be attached to your humanity and your gratitude. Otherwise, it ends up being an extremely selfish attraction that you're trying to get. You have to see that what's good for you is also good for your, all of humanity. So those are things that I could see were extremely, extremely important. Now, like this is what I use. I just get a bottle of water and I just write on them. Now, writing on these friggin' bottles is not going to make your water magic. Yeah, it may change the structure in the bottle, but you are the bottle of the water. You are the container of the water that's being held inside your body. Whatever chemicals, whatever label you put on your body, your, container is going to transform whatever water is going to be in, that water. So it isn't magic water, which Wachter seems to, want to make this out to be magical water. It ain't. It is an influence. The labels, which I would prefer it to be raised so that you're not actually seeing it, that you're actually feeling the text that's on there, because it has more of an influence on you. What you don't see has more of an influence. So I definitely wouldn't put a big label on a designed bottle, which bottled water is going to destroy your friggin' planet if you don't. If the corporate structure, which, watch Ventura, the corporate structure has taken over your water. Soon you won't be able to have a job unless you're going to, get into an army that's going to go after you. And that's the only way you're going to get money. You're going to have to be able to afford to buy your water. They are taking and consuming all of our natural resources, and they don't give a shit whether they destroy your water in the process. So it is something that humanity needs to start owning its own water. Not me. This is the worst harmful thing, is to have this involved with a corporate structure in any way, shape, or form. It's got to be, if you are drinking it, if you are consuming it, you are the owner of it. Not me. This is something I'm giving away free. You can try this at home to see if it works with you. Every time you drink out of these bottles, the goal is that you have to actually remember, what did it feel like to feel happy? And then you basically have to meditate on those feelings. Even if for a second, if just for 1 second, oh, I remember what it felt like when I was on that beach and felt happy. You have to force your brain to actually feel what it is to feel, not just say words. You have to force yourself to feel, because what you feel, in order for you to feel, means you have to create peptides and proteins. So you actually have to take control over what your brain creates, the chemicals in your brain. So when you have, drinking a bottle of confidence and certainty, you actually have to force your brain to feel what it feels like to be confident and certain. You can't just look at a label and think that that's going to influence you as much as the power you have to have over your thoughts. And it gets easier. If you start doing it within 21 days, you start changing the structure of your brain. 21 days later, it will affect the structure of your brain even more. The more you do it, the more it changes the structure of your brain. I personally think that this is a potential that can gain control over our economic structure. This puts the finances, the currency, in the people's hands and the people's control, and not by an elite, not by a government, not by a corporate structure that can hold and suppress. If it's owned by the people, controlled by the people, then there is no friggin' control. Now, there also is an awful lot of technology out there that is being suppressed. What they're doing in the Gulf right now is, trying to destroy the currents. So we do have colder weather. It will have. They think it's going to create a small ice age. And if everything is colder, then you're going to need more oil, which means that's going to jack up the price of oil, which it's like, that's totally insane, because if you're not working, how can you afford oil in the first place? But I know that there is free, clean energy out there that is being suppressed. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket science to figure that one out, but you're brainwashed to believe that it's next to impossible, but it's not. We have systems that can transform all toxic waste into pure, clean energy. How much toxic waste is there on the planet? That would put people to work, cleaning up the planet instead of destroying the planet. Our medical systems are all designed for you to get really, really ill, yet there's sciences that prove that all of the things that are killing you can actually be transformed. You can actually get healed. So we do need a better medical system that doesn't involve pills. That would put people to work. There are so many things that if we just shifted the way we earned our living, then the whole economic system, the whole global experience changes. But if you have a good idea, like these toxic waste systems, these free energy systems, they're not getting funded. But if you look at how big the bottled water industry, it's $1 billion industry. If this was to dominate the bottled water industry, then we get control over our economic systems, and we can start funding new ideas that will actually clean up the planet, and you take control. And it's a way of, everything's about to crash. Wake up. How are you going to save the system? You need a gradual way to unfold the solution, so that, that's the only solution that I can see. I'm not seeing anybody design any other system. I'm seeing like the Venus Project that clearly has flaws in it. Those flaws that they don't want to communicate about happen to be, hey, you're redesigning the same system and you can't see it yet. Every single good idea that I've seen people come up with, it's just a redesign of the same system over and over and over again. It takes a completely different mindset to be able to see what is an actual solution. So it's up to you. I don't give a shit. I got nothing to lose. If you guys all want to go down with the, I'll go down with the ship just the same as everybody else does. But there is a way out of this. But we need to take control. And we won't get control if we're in a state of hate. You have to pull yourself in a state of love. And then you start receiving information. And when you receive information, some of this shit will start making some sense to you. But if you're in a hateful state of being, you will not make any sense out of any of this at all, because you're playing the game of hate, you're in the arms of your enemy, and you're programmed to do exactly what your enemy wants you to do, and you don't even know it. Peace out.